telling his tenant, I'm gonna give you a 50% reduction in your rent. Now he can fill out that paperwork for you and provide that to you. Does it affect his tax rate?
Again, it would take all, and this could hang us. It would take all of the retail. We analyze all of them. Don't get me wrong.
So you don't do it on
Some of
one?
those income and expense forms that I get, the ones that don't say NA, but actually have true numbers on them, some of them, I have to scrutinize them. I have to request more information. Sometimes I get that, sometimes I don't. Most cases, I do receive the information, which allows me to establish a full and fair price per square foot of rentable space. Now, do we have a range? Absolutely. Because you have Route 28 that one end may yield $12 a square foot, but then you get down on Concord Street and that may yield $17 a square foot. So location also becomes a factor. So if you just keep retail as the topic, you're gonna have a range of rents. And you have to have that in every 351 communities in the state of Massachusetts. do it that
It's
way.
no different with you looking at homes across the town in terms of, in one area,
Exactly.
a similar home may be worth less than in another area because of the area itself.
Location, location, location.
Mr. O'Leary, you,
I was just going to help clarify, I don't know, but I may confuse the issue. Well, but in relation to what happens with the ZBA, right now we have one tax rate, so there's no effect. But if we were to have a dual tax rate, and as Debbie pointed out, the impact of it, again, with the zoning bylaws allowing only 300 square feet within a residential property to be available for commercial purposes, operating a business out of there, if they have a 1,500 square foot home or a 2,000 square foot home, the cost of calculating that, billing it, doing that probably would negate what the differential would be.
Revenue.
Revenue if you do a 10 or 20% differentiation here. So we've talked about it in the past, and we haven't made a concerted effort to go chase it. First of all, we haven't classified, and secondly, the amount of revenue that would be generated from the home business occupations would be minimal. And as Debbie pointed out, it's not based upon the amount of income that's generated by the business, but it's based upon the square footage in this particular case that's utilized in the location where it's allowable space. So it has nothing to do with the amount of income that's generated by that business being operated. And again, if they were to rent that space out, as they put it, would be on a square foot basis, and then you'd apply a vacancy rate. So chasing that down would have a minimal impact.
not
It
worth
probably
it. I
would
agree.
cost town hall more than
Oh, well,
what we generate.
it wouldn't be
income.
a good thing.
Mr. Messeri, I have the presentation that was given to us last year, and it says the average residential value for 2010 is $409,000. It's exactly to the dime, I guess, or to the penny, the same amount, and yet the commercial value that was stated last year was $779,000, and you just said it was $388,400. Is that accurate?
If I might, the commercial value that was given last year was a combination of commercial and industrial. So it was commercial and industrial average. And now she's giving a commercial value
Right.
average
Because
without the industrial.
Because we were talking about the commercial exemption, and the 409 is correct, because the residential values did not really shift. There wasn't change in the commercial, in the residential.
That
101s.
really does surprise me too. I'm shocked that has not changed at all in the last year. It's really, and I understand that, and it may be because you're not seeing a lot of homes on the market. This could be the factor why, because you're not seeing the sales, so you don't have the comparisons. But there's gotta be another way to get at that number, because I think the impact is certainly that if you put a home on the market now, you're going to get less for it this year than you would have last year. I don't know how you get at that number, but I think just the overall impact and the feeling that people have is that residential average value had to have come down.
And
Yeah,
I
but
do understand.
I think you
Standard
gotta,
perception.
excuse me, I think this is the hard part that everybody has difficulty dealing with, right? And that is that, and maybe the simplest way to look at it is, because of the levy limit, putting new growth aside, because new growth is essentially new growth, right? If the value of all the homes in North Reading, right, drop by a factor of 2. So the $400,000 home was valued at $200,000. And let's say the tax rate was $10. In the process of it dropping down, the tax rate would automatically go up to $20, right? So I think, you know, from that point of view, there's little impact. Where there is an impact is that across the spectrum, there's, and this happens not necessarily over a one-year period, but over several years, during this rapid growth that we were having, right, the values of our ranches and the small homes were going up at a faster rate than the big ones as a result of people buying them up and then using that land to add a second story or knock the house down and build a bigger home, right? So that those people during that period of time get hurt more, right? So, and there's several different dynamics here that's not necessarily easy to understand, right? So if values all went up, if values doubled, the impact would be, short of an override, the tax rate would half. You know, now I'm excluding the 2.5 that we add plus new growth every year. But then that can be controlled too by town meeting voting something less than what we asked for in a budget. I'm not asking that people do that, at least during this economic time, but you know, that's where there is a control over what our administration and our school department is doing associated with spending. Jeff?
Yes.
And then Sean.
Bob, if I understand you correctly, that if 10 years ago, the houses were all structured a certain way, built a certain way, that if 10 years later, no one did anything to the houses, there's a good chance that the numbers would go down. But since they've taken old ranches, built them up, that you don't go back to those numbers because, well, it's not the same house.
No, that's not exactly what I was saying. What I was saying is that because sales is a big factor, right?
They're the indicator.
It's kind of an indicator, right? As the hot sale may have been the lower cost houses, driving the value of those houses up, which meant that because the levy limit is fixed, right, the value of the lower end houses went up at a higher percentage rate than the more expensive ones. There's more of a tax burden that fell on the lower valued houses in terms of their actual tax bill, because the value went up not proportionally with the larger homes. And it could be the other way around someday, right? But, I mean, I think...
You are absolutely correct, and that did happen. It became the marketable range. Your $485,000 homes down became that hot market, and people were buying them, and they were putting another $150,000 into them. Your $900,000 and the $1 million, $800,000 homes were selling, but not at that same hot market.
Yeah, my point is that those people that did something, took out a building permit and added, that was new growth. They paid the bill. The people that got hurt were the ones that were sitting there with a home that was valued at $200,000, and all of a sudden it's $300,000 because that's what they could sell it for, right? And that's, you know, that's a real problem that there's no necessary solution to. Short of this proposal to, what do we call it? That's what this, what?
Classified rates.
Yeah, the classified exemption, you know, was aimed at helping in that range, anyone below average.
those lower valued homes have all now been renovated, for the most part.
Sean, I'm sorry.
A couple things. I just heard that the 388,400 is only for commercial, average commercial value. So what is the value for the industrial properties?
I can get you that number. I don't like throwing numbers out that I don't have off the top
Only
of
because
my
the-
head, and I apologize
No, it's
for
all right.
that, but,
Is that- I had a
you know, the
misunderstanding.
average is, if you just take your 400 classes, if you go back to your LA4 and take your 400 class and divide it by the number, that is your average. But don't forget, that's not just your buildings. That's your industrial land and your industrial building. So, to get a more clear and concise number of industrial properties that hold a building, I would say I'd get back to you. I wouldn't give a number right
You
now.
can't even compare the two numbers anyway.
Right.
No, but
Wait,
Deanna,
no, but-
Deanna,
no.
She asked a question of
No, no,
why.
I understand.
it's a Big change.
But
So I just
because-
caution,
Comparing apples to
I just,
oranges.
if I can just finish, because I just caution, because the way the document reads, it's a combined average.
Mhm. That's right.
Right.
That's
But we
right,
don't
by class.
No, the document, the paragraph written in the document is combined average of your commercial and industrial.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
just caution you as to what you put out, just to be clear, so everyone has a,
Yeah, and the 388,400 is just the commercial.
Just
not
commercial.
Industrial, the number is probably up around $750,000.
But again, you
If you
can't
get to
compare
that.
that. You can't compare that to a residential rate.
no, I'm not comparing it. No,
But I think people do tend to look at residential averages against the CIP average, and they're apples and oranges.
absolutely agree, that was not my point, trying to get at this information, it's on page 2, Debbie.
You had XXX,
Yes.
you're still in the black with 388,400.
Right.
And it probably is close to the
Oh.
average of all, it's probably up around 750, 779 last year.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
We'll fix that for
Yeah,
next year.
I apologize. I did it last year, and I came up with the combined commercial and industrial. And this year Debbie was just looking at commercial, so I don't know what it says here.
That's fine, I'm glad.
Oh, it
Mrs.
does.
Casper-
Mine
That's
says
right.
XXX.
Yeah.
Right. No, but then
Roman
Sean asked the question and we were given a number of 388 for it.
Mhm. I believe that's just commercial.
Debbie, I think this may be helpful, I think for myself and maybe for people in the audience or people at home. If you can define or tell us what the ingredients are to get to the levy limit. How do you get to the levy limit?
It's, first of all, it's historic in that if we go back, right, to this current year,
Mhm.
let's say, right? We have our levy limit from the past year, and we have 2.5 and new growth. And that creates a baseline.
No, I understand,
You
but
wanna
I'm
know
just,
the levy? How you get the
He
levy?
wants how?
Appropriations at town meeting. Town meeting votes certain amount of money. A certain amount of money to be raised, okay? And then from that, you subtract estimated receipts from the state, estimated receipts that you think you're gonna receive from the town for parking fines and fees and what have you. And once you subtract all the income that you think you're gonna get, then you're down to your levy. The levy that has to be raised by taxes. But it's the appropriations that town meeting votes.
I understand.
You were asking how the levy limit get
Right.
calculated.
And I know you have it in this document that we have, and I've read it, but I don't know if the general public out there really understands, like Mr. Brandano's question, how his property went up 7.5% in 1 year. There's more than just taking what the levy limit was